Okay, Initiation 5, the Revelation. As we undertake the consideration of the next initiation, you will find that 3 factors will emerge in a new light in your consciousness, that they are factors related to past experiences, and yet which have reference to experiences which lie far ahead of you upon the path, will also be inferred from what I say. These will not necessarily meet with your real understanding. These factors are the factor of blindness leading to revelation, the factor of the will producing synthesis, the factor of the purpose externalizing itself through the plan. These are all implicit in this new initiatory experience, but they should be approached by you with as much use of the intuition as you can employ. Your effort will have to be that you endeavor to think as if you had taken the higher initiations. You have to bear in mind that each initiation enables the initiate to see ahead a little further, for revelation is always a constant factor in human experience. The whole of life is revelation. The evolutionary process is, in relation to consciousness, a process of leading the blind out of darkened areas of consciousness into greater light, and therefore into a vaster vision. As you know, this particular initiation has been called the resurrection by the Christian world, emphasizing that aspect in the experience of the initiate which leads to revelation, i.e., his rising out of the ocean of matter into the clear light of day. The thought of revelation can be seen also in the Christian teaching anent the ascension, an initiation which has no factual existence and should not be called an initiation. You have, therefore, the following sequence connected with the 4th and 5th initiations. 1. Renunciation, producing crucifixion, and leading to 2. Ascension, or a complete rising out of, or mounting higher, leading to 3. Revelation, giving vision a reward of the 2 above stages. Christian theologians have made 3 distinct episodes out of these 2 initiations, but this has in no way mattered, as the initiate in the West soon learns. He now knows that the whole series of initiations, with their causes, their effects, and their resultant intentions, are only a sequence of processes leading from the one to the other. A corresponding sequence can be seen in the unfoldment of the consciousness of the human being from infancy to full maturity. Each unfoldment is part of a series of revelations, as his vision of life and his capacity to experience develops. This is true of all men, from the most primitive to the advanced initiate, the difference consisting in that which each brings to the experience as the result of past effort, his point in consciousness, and the quality of the vehicles through which that consciousness is developing. With the initiate disciple, this is also the case. He enters consciously into each experience. They are integral parts of his intention. Having renounced the 3 worlds and having returned back from a contact of great importance and interest to those 3 worlds, and with all that is familiar in them, the initiate suddenly realizes that he has indeed been liberated, that he is indeed free, that he has been raised out of darkness and is now free in a new world of experiences. He knows that he has climbed to the mountaintop, or has ascended to the Buddhic plane, from which plane he must permanently work, and not just occasionally, as has been the method hitherto. He can work through a physical body with its subtler sheets or not, as he sees fit. He realizes that he, as an individual, no longer needs a physical body or an astral consciousness, and that the mind is only a service instrument. The body in which he now functions is a body of light, which has its own type of substance. The master, however, can build a body through which he can approach his incoming disciples and those who have not taken the higher initiations. He will normally build this body in semblance of the human form, doing so instantaneously and by an act of the will when required. The majority of the masters who are definitely working with humanity either preserve the old body in which they took the fifth initiation, or else they build the Maya Virupa, or body of Maya, of physical substance. This body will appear in the original form in which they took initiation. This I personally did in reference to the first case, i.e., preserving the body in which I took initiation. This the Master K.H. did in creating a body which was made in the form in which he took the fifth initiation. It may interest you to know that the Christ has not yet decided what type of physical vehicle he will employ should he take physical form and work definitely upon the physical plane. He waits to see what nation or group of nations do the most work and the most convincing work in preparation for his reappearance. He will not, however, take a Jewish body as he did before, for the Jews have forfeited that privilege. The Messiah for whom they wait will be one of Christ's senior disciples, but it will not be, as originally intended, the Christ. Symbolically, the Jews represent, from the point of view of the hierarchy, that form which all masters of the wisdom and lords of compassion emerge. Materialism, cruelty, and spiritual conservatism, so that today they live in Old Testament times and are under the domination of the separative, selfish, lower concrete mind. But their opportunity will come again, and they may change all this when the fires of suffering at last succeed in purifying them and burning away their ancient crystallization, thus liberating them to the extent that they can recognize their Messiah, who will not, however, be the world Messiah. The Jews need humility more than any other nation. By humility, they learn something of value as well as a needed sense of proportion. They are dear to the heart of the Christ, for, in the performance of his greatest work, he chose a Jewish body. But their materialism and their repudiation of spiritual opportunity has negated his use of their racial type again. It would provide too great a handicap. The probability is that the Master Jesus will assume, under instruction from the Christ, the part of the Messiah. The Master, standing symbolically upon the Mount of Ascension, is equipped with a full realization of the past, with a sound appreciation of what he has to offer to the service of humanity, and with a sense of expectancy. During the preceding cycle of lives of initiatory service to humanity, he has several times heard the voice of the Father. This is a symbolical phrase indicating contact with that aspect of himself which was responsible for the appearance of his soul and for its long cycle of incarnation. The monad, the spirit, the one, the life, the Father. Each time that the voice spoke, it gave him recognition. It is, in reality, the voice of the initiator in whom we live and move and have our being. All of the Master's previous visions have led him to this high point of expectancy. He knows now where his field of service lies within the hierarchy, working on behalf of all living beings. He knows also that he himself has still to make progress, to move forward and that there faces him a great initiation of decision, the sixth, for which he must prepare. He knows that this entails for him right choice, but also that right choice depends upon right understanding, right perception, right willingness, and right vision or revelation. So he stands again upon the mountaintop, awaiting again the presence. He realizes that something more is needed if he is to serve rightly and simultaneously make spiritual progress himself. It is not possible for me here to indicate the nature of the revelation which is accorded to the initiate of the fifth initiation. It is too closely related to Shambhala, and I have not myself done more this life than take the fifth initiation and climb the Mount of Ascension. The revelation for me is not completed, and in any case my lips are sealed. I can, however, take up 2 points with you which may clarify your vision. I would remind you again that what I am here writing in this last volume of A Treatise on the Seven Rays is written for disciples and initiates. Disciples will see some of the significances behind the symbol and will make interpretations according to the point they have attained upon the path. You need to remember that the world of men today is full of those who have taken one or other of the initiations, and that there are great disciples from all the rays working on the physical plane as senior workers for humanity under the hierarchy. There will be many more during the next 100 years, this being written in 1949. Some of these do not know their particular hierarchical status in their physical brains, having deliberately relinquished this knowledge in order to do certain work. That which I here write is intended, during the next 40 years, to find its way into their hands with the deliberate intent of bringing to the surface of their brain consciousness who and what they are in truth. This is a part of their program planned by the hierarchy prior to the externalization of the ashrams. The masters feel that these senior disciples and initiates, being on the spot, should soon begin to work with more authority. This does not mean that they will assert their spiritual identity and claim initiate status. This they could not do on account of their point on the ladder of spiritual evolution. But, knowing who they are from the angle of the hierarchy and what is expected of them, they will strengthen their work, bring in more energy, and point the way with greater clarity. Their wisdom will be recognized as well as their compassion, but they themselves will recede into the background. They may even appear to be less active outwardly and so be misjudged, but their spiritual influence will be growing. They care not what others think about them. They recognize also the mistaken views of all the modern religions anent the Christ. Some may even be persecuted in their homes or by those they seek to help. None of this will matter to them. Their way is clear, and their term of service is known to them. The 2 points with which I shall now deal are as follows. 1, the part which energy plays in inducing revelation, and 2, the place the will plays in the revelatory sequence: revelation, interpretation, intention, and will. These must be looked at from the angle of discipleship and not to be considered on their face value or in the ordinary manner. They must be approached from the angle of the world of meaning and, if possible, from the world of significances. Otherwise, the teaching will be so exoteric that its occult nature will not appear. The part which energy plays in inducing revelation. You will get a hint as to what I have to say if you will refer back to an earlier statement on page 534. There you will find the inference that 3 energies are necessary for the initiate to employ if he seeks revelation, no matter what the revelation may be or the status of the disciple or the initiation he faces. These same 3 energies will be brought into play. They are A, the energy generated by the disciple, B, the energy coming from the spiritual triad, and C, the energy of the ashram with which he is affiliated. These are the three essential energies, and without their synthesis in the disciple's mind or in one of the three higher centers, there can be no true revelation of the higher order or related to the process of initiation. In connection with the energy generated by the disciple, it will be obvious that this will include the energy of the soul ray until the fifth initiation, when it will be superseded by the energy of the monad. This will reach him, first of all, as the energy of the spiritual triad, and later that, in its turn, will be superseded by the direct energy of the monad itself. The initiate will then know practically, and not just theoretically, what Christ meant when he said, "I and my Father are one." In the earlier stages on the path of discipleship, the disciple works with that measure of the energy of his soul ray to which he can be receptive, plus as much of the energy of the personality ray as is responsive to that soul energy. In doing this, a great measure of discrimination can be developed, and it is one of the first places where the value of the injunction, "Know thyself," can be seen. The nature of the soul ray at this time determines the nature of the revelation. The nature of the personality and its ray is, at the same time, either helpful or a hindrance. To the energies which he has generated within himself, the disciple learns to add that of the group which he has attempted to serve with love and understanding. All disciples of any standing gather around them the few or the many that they have found themselves able to aid. The purity of the energy generated by this group depends upon their selflessness, their freedom from authority, or the control of the disciple, and the quality of their spiritual aspiration. As the disciple or master has helped them to generate this energy, and as all will necessarily synchronize with his, it becomes available as a pure stream of force flowing through him at all times. This he can learn to focus and incorporate with his own energy, also focused, in order to prepare himself for further vision, provided always that his motive is likewise selfless. These are relatively new to him and embody divine qualities of which he has hitherto known nothing. Even theoretically, he knows little, and his attitude towards them has hitherto been largely speculative. Since he first put his foot upon the path, he has been trying to build the Antikarana. Even that has meant for him an act of faith, and he proceeds in the early stages with the work of building, yet scarcely knowing what he does. He follows blindly the ancient rules and attempts to accept as factual that which has not been proven to him to be a fact, but which is testified to by countless thousands down the ages. The whole process is in the nature of a culminating triumph of that innate sense of deity which has driven man forward from the most primitive experiences and physical adventures to this great adventure of constructing a pathway for himself from the dense material world into the spiritual. These higher spiritual energies have hitherto been recognized by him through their effects. Now he has to learn to handle them, first of all, by letting them pour into and through him via the Antikarana, and then to direct them towards the immediate objective of the divine plan. Hitherto he has worked primarily with the thread of consciousness. This is anchored in the head, and through that consciousness his personality and his soul are linked together until he has become a soul-infused personality. He has then attained unity with his higher self. Through the building of the Antikarana, another thread is added to the soul-infused personality, and the true spiritual individual is linked with and comes under the direction of the spiritual triad. At the fourth initiation, the soul body, the causal body, so-called, disappears, and the thread of consciousness is occultly snapped. Neither the soul body nor the thread are any longer required. They become now only the symbols of a non-existent duality. The soul is no longer the repository of the consciousness aspect as hitherto. All that the soul has stored up of knowledge, science, wisdom, and experience, garnered in the life cycle of many aeons of incarnation, are now the sole possession of the individual spiritual man. He transfers them into the higher correspondence of the sensory perceptive apparatus, the instinctual nature on the three planes of the three worlds. Nevertheless, he still possesses awareness of all past events and knows now why he is what he is. Much of the information anent the past he discards. It has served its purpose, leaving him with the residue of experienced wisdom. His life takes on a new coloring, totally unrelated to the three worlds of his past experience. He, the sum total of that past, faces new spiritual adventures, and has now to tread the path which leads him away from the normal human evolution onto the way of the higher evolution. This new experience he is well equipped to face. Three major energies begin to make an impact upon his lower mind. They are: 1. The impulsive energy of ideas, coming to him from the abstract mind and traveling along the Antikarana. These make contact with his now illumined lower mind, which, at this point, transforms them into ideals so that the divine ideas implementing the divine purpose may become the heritage of the race of men. The better trained and the more controlled the mind, the easier it will be to handle this type of energy. It is by means of this impulsive energy that the hierarchy upon the Buddhic plane leads humanity onwards. It is by means of this impulsive energy that the hierarchy upon the Buddhic plane leads humanity onwards. 2. The energy of the intuition, which is the word we use to describe a direct contact with the mind of God at some relatively high level of experience. The effect of this energy upon the soul-infused personality is to give the mind, already receptive to the energy of ideas, some faint glimmering and brief revelation of the purpose of the ideas which underlie all hierarchical activity on behalf of humanity. The intuition is entirely concerned with group activity. It is never interested in or directed to the revelation of anything concerned with the personality life. The growth of what we might call the Buddhic vehicle, though that is a misnomer, prepares the man for the ninth or the final initiation, which enables the initiate in a matter incomprehensible to us to intuit in a blazing light the true nature of the cosmic astral plane. Forget not, the Buddhic plane is closely allied with the cosmic astral plane, and that all intuitions, when regulated, require the use of the creative imagination in their working out or in their presentation to the thoughts of men. Speaking generally, the masters intuit those phases of the divine intention which are immediate. These constitute the overshadowing cloud of knowable things. These they transform into the plan. Then their disciples, with their intuitional capacity developing slowly but steadily, begin themselves to intuit these ideas, to present them as ideals to the masses, and thus precipitate the needed aspects of the plan onto the physical plane. And 3, the dynamic energy of the will follows next. And as the disciple perfects the Antikarana, it sweeps through the medium of contact into the mind of the soul-infused personality, and from thence it finds its way to the brain. I am, of course, referring to the disciple in training and not to the masters themselves, who work at the center of these energies. The hierarchy is a great reception point for these 3 aspects of the spiritual triad: the spiritual will, the intuition or pure reason, and the abstract mind. It is in the ashrams of the masters that the disciple comes into direct relation with these dynamic, revealing, and impulsive energies. These three energies focus through and are directed by the three heads of the hierarchy, the Manu, the Christ, and the Mahachohan. The Manu is receptive to and the agent of the energy of the divine will for humanity. The Christ is the agent for the distribution of the energy which brings intuitive revelation. The Mahachohan is responsible for the inflow of ideas into the consciousness of the disciple, the aspirant, and the intelligentsia. I would beg you to remember that the main effort of the spiritual hierarchy is on behalf of humanity, because the fourth kingdom in nature is the macrocosm of the threefold microcosm of the three lower kingdoms in nature. This whole subject is too vast to be entered into here, but I have given you much along these lines in A Treatise on Cosmic Fire. Much more than I can possibly give you is revealed to the initiate at the time of the fifth initiation. The clues to thoughts to abstract concepts, the fleeting ideas of which all disciples are aware at this initiation, resolves into certainty, and the master can now take his place as a distributor of triadal energy. The major problem confronting him is not the distribution of ideas or the use of the intuition in grasping the stage of the divine purpose at any particular time. It consists in the development of the spiritual will and its comprehension and its use in world service. Just as the disciple has to learn to use the mind in two ways. As a common sense, a resolver of information so that the life pattern and a life service planned and directed may eventuate, and a perception of relationships. As a searchlight, bringing into the light those ideas and intuitions which are needed. So the master has to learn the uses of the will. A natural sequence can be seen closely related to the ideas of revelation. On the mountaintop of ascension, following the experience of teaching the spirits which are in prison, the master receives a revelation. This is his right and due, and something for which the long previous cycle of initiation has prepared him. The revelation must be followed by realization and recognition. 1. He realizes that the right interpretation of the revelation is the first essential. And 2, he then comes to the understanding that the next step is for him to formulate his intention based upon the revelation and directed towards his world service. And 3, having received the revelation, interpreted it, and determined within himself that what he intends to do, he next realizes that the factor of the will must now be employed if he and those he seeks to help are to profit by the revelation. This opens up the whole subject of the will, its nature and relationships, and this we must study for a while, the sequence of revelation, interpretation, intention, and will. Okay, new section, still a part of the fifth initiation, the place that the will plays in inducing revelation. There are 3 words connected with this initiation which are of real importance to its correct understanding. They are emergence, will, purpose. With the emergence aspect, we have already dealt under the term raising up, or the transition from the darkness of matter to the light of the spirit. But of the will, its uses, and its function, as yet we know little. Knowledge as to the nature of the will in any true sense only comes after the third initiation. From that time on, the initiate demonstrates increasingly and steadily the first divine aspect, that of the will and the right use of power. This first aspect of divinity is necessarily closely associated with the first ray of power or will. I shall, however, only consider the ray angle incidentally, for I want to elucidate for you the nature of the will in some clear measure though complete understanding is not possible. The Lord of the world is, we are told, the sole repository of the will and the purpose of his overshadowing cosmic soul. These two words, will and purpose, are not identical in meaning. Sanat Kumara and his council at Shambhala are the only beings upon our planet who know just what is the nature of the divine purpose. It is their function and obligation to work that purpose out into manifestation, and this they do by the use of the will. The will ever implements the purpose. The repository of the will aspect of man's innate divinity is to be found at the base of the spine. This can only function correctly and be the agent of the divine will after the third initiation. The head center is the one which is the custodian of the purpose. The center at the base of the spine indicates the will as it implements the purpose. The purpose is slowly, very slowly, revealed to the initiate during the final 5 initiations, and this only becomes possible after the initiation of renunciation. At that time, the initiate says, in unison with the great head of the hierarchy, the Christ, Father, not my will, but thine be done. Then comes the initiation of emergence out of matter, and from that point on, the initiate begins to glimpse the purpose of the planetary logos. Hitherto, he has only seen the plan, and to the service of the plan he has been dedicated. Hitherto also, he has only sought to be an exponent of the love of God. Now he must express with increasing fullness the will of God. Earlier in these pages, page 410, we are told that the problem which confronts the hierarchy as it seeks to prepare disciples for the successive initiations is the right use of the will, both their own use of the will in relation to the initiate and the initiate's use of the will as he works for the plan, as that plan implements purpose. To produce this, a direct understanding and powerful expression of this first aspect is demanded. There are several reasons why the will presents a problem. Let us list a few of them and thereby get understanding. 1. This energy of the will is the most potent energy in the whole scheme of planetary existence. It is called the Shambhala force. It is that which holds all things together in life. It is, in reality, life itself. This life force, or divine will, implementing divine intention, is that by means of which Sanat Kumara arrives at his goal. On a tiny scale, it is the use of one of the lowest aspects of the will, human self-will, which enables a man to carry out his plans and attain his fixed purpose, if he has one. Where the will is lacking, the plan dies out and the purpose is not achieved. Even in relation to self-will, it is veritably the life of the project. The moment Sanat Kumara has attained his planetary purpose, he will withdraw this potent energy, and in this withdrawing, destruction will set in. The Shambhala force is steadily held in leash for fear of too great an impact upon the unprepared kingdoms in nature. This has reference to its impact also upon humanity. You have been told that this force has, during this century, made its first direct impact upon humanity. Heretofore, it reached mankind in the 3 worlds after being stepped down and modified by transit through the planetary center to which we give the name of the hierarchy. This direct impact will again take place in 1975 and also in the year 2000, but the risks will then not be so great as in the first impact owing to the spiritual growth of mankind. Each time this energy strikes into the human consciousness, some fuller aspect of the divine plan appears. It is the energy which brings about synthesis which holds all things within the circle of the divine love. Since its impact during the past few years, human thinking has been more concerned with the production of unity and the attainment of synthesis in all human relations than ever before. And one result of this energy has been the forming of the United Nations. And two, it will be apparent to you, therefore, that this energy is the agent of the revelation of the divine purpose. It may surprise you that this is regarded as presenting a problem to the hierarchy, but if this power, impersonal and potent, should fall into the hands of the Black Lodge, the results would be disastrous indeed. Most of the members of this center of cosmic evil are upon the first ray itself, and some of the divine purpose is known to a few of them, for in their due place in the initiatory regime, they too are initiates of high degree, but dedicated to selfishness and separativeness. Their particular form of selfishness is far worse than anything which you can imagine, because they are completely detached and divorced from all contact with the energy to which we give the name of love. They have cut themselves off from the spiritual hierarchy, through whom the love of the planetary logos reaches the forms in the three worlds and all that is contained therein. These evil but powerful beings know well the uses of the will, but only in its destructive aspect. We have spoken much of the purpose of the planetary logos. When I use the word purpose, I am indicating the answer to the question, why did the planetary logos create this world and start the evolutionary creative process? Only one answer has as yet been permitted to be given. Sanat Kumara has created this planet and all that moves and lives therein in order to bring about a planetary synthesis and an integrated system whereby a tremendous solar revelation can be seen. Having said that, we have not really penetrated any distance into the meaning of the divine purpose. We have only indicated the method whereby it is being attained, but the true objective remains still an obscure mystery, guarded rigidly in the council chamber of Sanat Kumara. It is this mystery and this divine planetary secret which is the goal of all the work being done by the Black Lodge. They are not yet sure of the purpose, and all their efforts are directed to the discovery of the nature of the mystery, hence the hierarchical problem. 3. It is this energy of the will, rightly focused, that enables the senior members of the hierarchy to implement that purpose. Only initiates of a certain standing can receive this energy, focus it within the hierarchy, and then direct its potency to certain ends known only to them. Speaking symbolically, the hierarchy has within it, under the custody of its most advanced members, what might be called a reservoir of divine intention. It is the higher correspondence to that to which Patanjali refers under the words, the rain cloud of knowable things, which hovers over the head of all disciples who can see somewhat in the light. Just as advanced humanity can precipitate the rain of knowledge from this cloud of knowable things, the divine ideas working out as intuitions in all the many areas of human thinking, so the lesser initiates and disciples within the hierarchy can begin to precipitate into their consciousness some of this divine intention. It is this reservoir of power which embodies some of the purpose and implements the plan. One of the problems of the hierarchy is, therefore, right timing in the revelation of divine intention and in the direction of the thinking and the planning done in their ashrams by the recipients, initiates, and disciples. Again, we come back to the same necessity for right interpretation of the revelation of the vision. I would ask you all, therefore, to ponder on the distinction which exists between 1. Self-will, 2. Determination, 3. Fixity of purpose, 4. The will, 5. The spiritual will, and 6. The divine will. I shall not attempt to discuss these words with you. They each indicate a certain aspect of the will. You will learn more on this point by doing your own thinking and defining. All that I can hope and pray is that your individual will can be merged into the divine will, that revelation will be increasingly yours, and that you will, with increased steadfastness, tread the path from darkness to light and from death to immortality. End of the fifth initiation.